It happened on a Tuesday, not a special day, not an anniversary, not a birthday, just a regular, uneventful Tuesday. I remember because I had stopped on the way home to pick up her favorite brand of tea, the one she always complained was too expensive, but secretly loved. I walked through the front door expecting the usual, a distracted greeting, maybe a quick smile before she went back to whatever was holding her attention. Instead, I got something else. She was sitting on the couch, legs crossed, scrolling through her phone. She didn't even look up when she said it. "You're not entitled to my affection." No warning, no build-up, just that. Stood there holding the grocery bag, like an idiot, trying to process what I had just heard. The words didn't even register at first. They were so cold, so dismissive, like she was stating a simple fact, like I had been foolish to think otherwise. I forced a laugh, thinking maybe it was some kind of joke. "What?" she sighed, finally setting her phone down and looking at me with something between exhaustion and mild irritation. "I mean, you act like you deserve my attention, my time, my love, just because we're married, but you don't. I don't owe you anything." I felt something crack inside me. This was my wife, the woman I had built a life with, the woman I had fought for, sacrificed for, supported through every high and low. When she was looking at me like I was some stranger asking too much of her, like my love, my loyalty, my presence meant nothing. I should have been angry, should have snapped back, told her how much I had given, how much I had put into this marriage. But I didn't. Instead, I just stopped speaking, stopped trying, stopped caring. Because in that moment I realized something painful, something undeniable. I had been fighting for someone who had already given up on me. And that was the moment I became a ghost in my own marriage. That night, I didn't say another word. I went through the motions, set my keys down, put the tea on the counter, walked upstairs to change. But inside, something had shifted. It wasn't just what she said. It was the way she said it, detached, indifferent, like I was just another piece of furniture she had gotten used to seeing in the house, nothing more, nothing less. Lying in bed beside her, I stared at the ceiling, feeling the weight of her words pressing down on me. "You're not entitled to my affection." What did that even mean? Had she felt this way for a long time? Was I just too blind, too in love, too hopeful to see it? At some point, I drifted off, only to wake up to the sound of her laughter. It was soft, almost flirtatious, and it took me a second to realize she wasn't talking to me. Her phone screen cast a faint glow against the sheets, her fingers typing away as a smile tugged at her lips. I didn't say anything. I just turned onto my side and faced away from her. That became a pattern. The next few days, I stopped trying. I didn't text her throughout the day to check in. I didn't ask how her morning was or if she wanted me to pick up anything on the way home. I didn't sit beside her when we watched TV, didn't lean in to kiss her goodnight. She didn't seem to notice. If anything, she seemed relieved, like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. That's when I knew. This wasn't a rough patch. This wasn't stress or miscommunication. She was done, so we had checked out long before she ever said those words. And maybe, just maybe, there was someone else. I started paying attention in ways I hadn't before. The late-night texts, the sudden interest in her appearance, the way she'd hum to herself after spending hours on her phone. She was happy, lighter, but not because of me. One evening, I sat at the kitchen table, watching her from across the room. She was scrolling again, smiling at something on her screen. I cleared my throat. "You working late tonight?" She barely glanced up. "No, I have." "Plans? Plans?" She didn't elaborate. She didn't offer an explanation, just plans. And that was all I needed to hear. I nodded slowly, pushing back my chair. "All right." She finally looked at me then, as if hearing something different in my tone. "All right." I gave her a small smile. "Yeah, have fun." I think that's when it hit her. The absence of frustration, the lack of emotion in my voice. For the first time in years, I wasn't fighting for her. I wasn't begging for scraps of her affection. I was letting go. That night, when she left for her plans, I sat in the living room staring at my phone. My fingers hovered over the screen, hesitating, before finally tapping the one name I hadn't reached out to in a long time. The call rang twice before a familiar voice answered. "Hey man, long time no talk." I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Yeah, I think I need a fresh start. And just like that, the wheels were in motion. I never used to be a man of silence. I always believed in talking things through, working on problems, fighting for what mattered. But when someone shows you they don't care anymore, words become meaningless. My wife had already made up her mind, even if she never said it outright. Her late nights, her secret plans, her indifference, she had left me long before I ever thought about leaving her. The only difference was, she was still physically here. But not for long. The night she went out for her so-called plans, I sat in the living room, phone in hand, staring at the contact I had just called. It had been over a year since I last reached out to Owen. He was an old friend, someone I had lost touch with after I got married. After I became too busy trying to keep everything together, Owen had always told me I put too much into a woman who gave too little, but I refused to listen back then. I didn't want to believe I had made a mistake. But now, with the house feeling emptier than ever, I knew he had been right. When he picked up, there was a hesitation in his voice. Man, I was starting to think you moved to another planet. I let out a dry chuckle, rubbing a hand over my face. Felt like it. A beat of silence. Then, it's about her, isn't it? I didn't have to say. Her name, he knew. Everyone knew. I had spent years defending my marriage, making excuses for her coldness, acting like things weren't as bad as they seemed. But Owen had always seen through it. She checked out, I admitted, finally saying the words out loud. I'm done chasing. After someone who doesn't want to be caught. About damn time, he muttered. What's the plan? That was the part I hadn't figured out yet. I had spent so long being the man who held everything together, the one who fought to keep the marriage alive, that I never considered what it would mean to walk away. But I wasn't going to sit around and let her be the one to decide how this ended. I need to get out, I said. More to myself than to him. I need to stop wasting my time on someone who doesn't want me. He exhaled, then stop. Pack your stuff. Come crash at my place for a while. Get some space. I hadn't thought about leaving first. In my head, I always imagined her being the one to walk away, making some dramatic exit when she finally found whatever or whoever she was looking for. Maybe that's exactly what she was waiting for me to stay right where I was. Waiting while she slowly slipped further and further away. Maybe it was time to change that. That night while she was gone, I grabbed a suitcase. It felt strange packing up my own things like a guest in my own home. But with every folded shirt, every pair of shoes tucked away, the weight on my chest started to lift. I wasn't running away. I was choosing myself, for the first time in years. When she came home hours later, she barely noticed the half-empty closet. She didn't ask why my keys were missing from the hook, why my shoes weren't by the door. She just climbed into bed, sighed like she had a long, exhausting night, and turned off the light without a word. She didn't care that I had started to disappear, but soon she would. Because for the first time, I wasn't waiting for her to decide if I was worth it. I was making that choice for myself. I left before sunrise, not because I was afraid of confrontation. I had simply lost the energy to care. There was nothing left to fight for. The version of my wife I had loved, the woman I had once admired, was long gone. I wasn't leaving her. She had already left me in every way that mattered. The house was quiet as I carried my bags to the car. I took one last look around before closing the door behind me, sealing off years of effort, sacrifice, and hope. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't even angry. I was just done. Owen met me at his apartment with a knowing look. You look like a man who just woke up from a coma, let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. That's exactly how it feels. He clapped a hand on my shoulder and let me inside. It wasn't a fancy place, just a 2-bedroom apartment with a couch that had seen better days, but for the first time in years I felt like I could breathe. I sat down, rubbing a hand over my face as the reality of it all sank in. So, what now? Owen asked, handing me a beer. I took a sip, letting the cold burn my throat before answering. Now, I let her figure it out. And she did, faster than I expected. The first message came around noon, just a simple "Where are you?" I didn't respond. Then another, Did you take your stuff? Still, I ignored it. By evening, the messages had turned into calls. I watched my phone light up on the coffee table, her name flashing across the screen like an alarm I had no interest in answering. Owen raised an eyebrow, amused. She didn't even notice you leaving, but now she's acting like you disappeared off the face of the earth. I smirked, leaning back. Guess she thought I'd always be there. I let the calls go unanswered. By nightfall, she sent the first real message that actually meant something. Are you okay? That was the one that almost made me laugh. Was I okay? No. After years of being treated like an afterthought, after realizing that she had checked out long before I did, I was better than okay. I put my phone down and went to bed, but the real wake-up call came the next morning. I was in the kitchen, making coffee when Owen walked in, holding my phone. Dude, you might want to see this. I took the phone and saw the text that finally made me pause. I think we should talk. For the first time, she wasn't acting indifferent. She wasn't ignoring me. She wasn't brushing me off like an inconvenience. She was realizing I was gone, and something told me that wasn't part of her plan. I let her message sit unread for hours. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I just didn't feel the urgency she'd probably expected. For years, I had been the one chasing, the one trying to mend cracks that weren't mine to fix. Now, I was simply letting things fall where they may, and the weight I once carried, it wasn't mine to hold anymore. But I wasn't naive. This wasn't some grand realization for her. It wasn't regret. If she truly valued our marriage, she wouldn't have needed my absence to finally notice me. No, this was something else, something deeper. And if I knew her like I thought I did, she wasn't reaching out because she missed me. She was reaching out because she was losing control. I went about my day as if nothing had changed. I had breakfast. With Owen, we went to the gym, grabbed lunch, and even took a walk through the city just to clear my head. And all the while, my phone kept buzzing text after text, call after call. By the time we got back to the apartment, Owen leaned against the counter, smirking as he scrolled through his own phone. You ready to face the music? I sat down, finally unlocking my phone. The unread messages were piling up. We need to talk. Why aren't you answering? I don't understand what you're doing. At least tell me where you are. I took a deep breath and typed the first words I had sent her in 2 days. What do you want? It didn't take her long to reply, I want to talk about us. That was new. Us hadn't been a topic of conversation in a long time. Us was something I had tried to hold on to while she drifted away. Now she wanted to talk. I wasn't convinced. I stared at the message, considering my next move. Then, before I could think too hard about it, I called her. She picked up on the first ring. Where are you? No hello, no softness, just urgency. I leaned back in my chair, keeping my voice even. Why does it matter? A pause. Because you just left, I laughed, shaking my head. No, I didn't. I've been leaving for a long time. You just noticed. Silence. I could picture her sitting there, gripping her phone, searching for the right words. That's not fair. Fair? I repeated, raising an eyebrow. You think fairness is me giving you my time, my love, my loyalty, while you treat me like a backup plan? You think fairness is me standing still while you decide if I'm worth your attention? She exhaled sharply. You're making this into something it's not. I let the silence stretch between us, waiting. And then she said it, the real reason for her sudden interest. I don't understand why you're doing this now. No, not why I left, not what went wrong. Just why now? Because she thought I'd always be there. Because she never believed. I'd walk away, because she assumed I would tolerate being unloved, as long as she let me stay close enough to hope for more. I ran a hand through my hair, letting out a slow breath. You don't get it, do you? What? I'm not doing anything, I said. I just stopped waiting for you to love me. Silence. I could almost hear the shift in her breathing, the way her mind scrambled for a response, but there was nothing left to say. After a long pause, she muttered, So that's it? I thought about everything I had given her, everything I had sacrificed, and how easily she had dismissed me until now. And then I realized this wasn't sadness in her voice. It wasn't even regret. It was panic. Panic that she had lost her safety net. Panic that she had pushed too far. It's panic that, for the first time, She wasn't in control of how this played out. What? And that was the moment I knew she never expected me to leave. But she sure as hell wasn't ready for what came next. I ended the call without another word. There was nothing left to explain, no reason to keep dragging myself through the same endless cycle. If she wanted to understand, she would have to do it without me spelling it out for her. Owen watched from the couch, his eyes narrowing as I tossed my phone onto the table. She finally feeling it? I sighed, running a hand through my hair. Not regret, not loss, just panic. Nodded like he expected that answer, 'cause she never thought you'd actually leave, and that was the truth. She had never considered the possibility that I could be the one to step away. In her mind, she was the one in control, the one who decided how much I was allowed to have, how much I was worth. She had spent years holding the power in our relationship, knowing I would always fight to keep things together. But what happens? When the person you've been dismissing suddenly stops playing by your rules, the next morning, the calls started again. Ignored them. I went for a run, showered, and made breakfast, all while watching my phone light up like an emergency siren. She wasn't used to being ignored. She was used to me answering on the first ring, desperate for any breadcrumb of attention she was willing to toss my way. Now, she was the one waiting. By noon, she switched tactics. The messages softened. I think we need to talk in person. This isn't how I wanted things to go. I just need to see you. She was playing the long game now, shifting from cold indifference to carefully calculated concern. But I wasn't biting, not yet. Owen leaned against the counter, glancing at my phone as another message popped up. You planning to respond? I smirked, shaking my head. Let her sit with it, because that's what she had done to me for years. Oh. She let me live in uncertainty, dangling the possibility of love in front of me without ever fully giving it. Now, it was her turn to feel what that silence meant. By evening, she cracked. A final message came through, different from the rest. I'm at home. Please come back. I need to talk to you. I stared at the screen, weighing my options. There was a time when I would have dropped everything and run to her the second she said she needed me. But now I knew better. Still, I needed to see what. This was I grabbed my keys and headed out, feeling the shift in my own chest. I wasn't walking into that house as the man she had spent years keeping on the sidelines. I was walking in as someone who had finally learned his worth. When I arrived, the house felt different. It was too quiet. She was sitting on the couch, her phone on the table beside her, as if she had been waiting for me the entire time. Her eyes flickered up the moment I walked in. You really left. I shut the door behind me. You really didn't notice. She exhaled, gripping the edge of the couch like she needed something to hold on to. I don't know why you're doing this. I let out a dry laugh. You told me I wasn't entitled to your affection. I believed you. Her mouth opened slightly as if she wanted to argue, but no words came. She wasn't used to being on this side of things. She had spent so long keeping me at arm's length, never expecting the day would come when I stopped reaching for her altogether. She licked her lips, eyes scanning my face. I just thought we had more time, and there it was. The truth, she had. Been holding on to the illusion that I would always be there, waiting, no matter how much she pulled away. She had been so comfortable in her control that she never considered the moment when I would finally see through it. I watched her, waiting for something real, something more than just the panic of losing her safety net. But all I saw was a woman who didn't want to be alone. I took a deep breath, the final weight lifting from my chest. You had all the time in the world, you just never used it. Her expression faltered, and for the first time, I saw something that almost looked like regret. But it was too late. I wasn't hers to lose anymore. I stood in the doorway for a long moment, watching her, letting the weight of everything settle. Between us, she looked smaller, somehow like she had finally realized she wasn't the one holding the cards anymore. Her fingers twisted together in her lap, and for the first time in years, she looked uncertain. It was almost surreal, seeing the same woman who once dismissed me with a casual wave of her hand now sitting there, searching for something to say. She shifted on the couch, inhaling slowly. I didn't think you'd actually leave. I let out a short, humorless laugh. I know. That was the problem, wasn't it? She never believed I could be anything other than what I had always been, loyal, patient, waiting. She had spent years pushing the boundaries, seeing how far she could go. Before I finally broke, the truth was, I should have walked away long ago. Maybe then she would have realized what she was losing before it was too late. But I had been too blinded by love, too convinced that if I just held on a little longer, she'd come back to me. She bit her lip, looking down at her hands. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. I raised an eyebrow. You didn't mean to say that I wasn't entitled to your affection? She hesitated. I needed space. Things felt suffocating. I shook my head, exhaling slowly. No, what you needed was control. Her gaze snapped up to mine, startled. That's not it. I took a step closer, cutting her off. That's exactly what it was. You wanted to be the one who decided when I was worth your time. You wanted to hold all the power in this relationship, knowing that no matter how much you pulled away, I'd still be here, waiting for the day you finally decided to love me back. She swallowed hard, but she didn't deny it. I ran a hand through my hair, suddenly exhausted. But I'm done living like that. Jaw tensed. So that's it? You just leave? Just like that? That was the part she couldn't accept. In her mind, she was the one who got to make the decisions. She was the one who got to choose how this played out. But for the first time, she wasn't in control, and it scared her. I crossed my arms, studying her. What do you want from me, Camila? She flinched at the sound of her name, maybe because I hadn't said it like I used to. There was no warmth, no pleading, no longing. Just a man who had finally woken up. She stared at me for a long moment before whispering, I don't know. And that was the real truth, wasn't it? She didn't want me to leave, but she didn't want to love me either. She wanted the comfort of knowing I was still there, still waiting in the background, still holding on to something that she had stopped valuing long ago. I sighed, rubbing my jaw. I do. Her eyes widened slightly, and for a second I thought she might cry, but she didn't. She just sat there, staring as I turned toward the door. Where are you going? She asked, her voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. I glanced back over my shoulder. Somewhere I don't have to beg to be wanted, and with that I walked away. For the first time in years, I wasn't looking back. I didn't stop walking until I reached my car. The second I shut the door, I gripped the steering wheel, exhaling slowly. The weight on my chest, the pressure that had built up for years, it was gone. Not because she had given me closure, but because I had given it to myself. For too long, I had let my happiness depend on someone who never truly valued it. I had spent years holding on to something that only existed in my memories, hoping she would one day become the woman I had fallen in love with again. But love isn't supposed to feel like a waiting game. It isn't supposed to feel like a slow, painful decay. And now, for the first time, I was free. As I drove back to Owen's apartment, the city lights blurred past me, and for the first time in a long time, I wasn't drowning in my thoughts. I wasn't overanalyzing what I could have done differently or wondering if she would suddenly realize she had made a mistake. That wasn't my burden anymore. When I walked through the door, Owen was already waiting, 2 beers in hand. He studied me for a moment before smirking. So how does it feel? I plopped onto the couch, grabbing the drink. Like I'd been holding my breath for years, and I just exhaled. He nodded approvingly. Told you it would be like that, I chuckled. Shaking my head, you did. I just didn't want to believe it. And that was the truth. I had spent so long convincing myself that staying meant fighting for something meaningful, that if I just kept holding on, things would change. But love isn't meant to be earned. If someone truly loves you, you don't have to beg for it. That night, I slept better than I had in years. No tossing and turning, no waiting for a text that would never come, no wondering if she was out with someone else, just peace. The next morning, I woke up early, grabbed a coffee, and stepped outside. To watch the sunrise. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about her. I wasn't thinking about what she was doing, who she was with, or whether she regretted anything. I was thinking about me, about what I wanted, about what my future could look like now, that I wasn't trapped in the past. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through old messages, old memories, and one by one I deleted them. Not out of anger, not out of resentment, but because I didn't need them anymore. I wasn't the man who had spent years begging for love. I wasn't the man who stayed in the background, waiting for scraps of attention. I was someone new, someone stronger, and for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see where life would